A court of fairies and fiction. Akafath Girls Podcast. Hosts Mel and Liv. Special episode, Eris Week 2023.
Okay, back in our Eris shit.
Yeah, because it's Eris week right now.
It is Eris week. I should do a shameless plug for my Eris week fanfic.
Good.
It's called The Crimson Curse, Autumn's Awakening. And chapter 1 is 10,000 words.
Write them all in one day.
Well, so most of it I actually took from me and Steph's RP.
Okay.
We had like wrote it or whatever, and then I expanded like the fight scenes and everything. So it's basically Helion reflecting on a conversation he had with Lucian about like stop waiting and like save my mother. Okay.
Yeah.
Like go get her. Like Eris had basically told him like she's really withering, like I'm trying my best, whatever. And so Helion goes to get Lady Autumn, and him and Eris and Lady A have a cute little exchange. Eris ends up letting him take her to the day court, and he comes back because they make a plan to kill Baron, which doesn't go to plan. And it ends in a lot of blood and gore. But there is a lot of very cute conversation between Helion and Eris. And at one point, when Eris is fighting Baron, Baron's like, you're such a traitor, son, or something like that. And Helion's like, he's not your son anymore, he's mine. And it's so cute. It's very cute. Yeah, because he does a number on Eris, and yeah, he doesn't end up in good shape, and Helion panics, and he brings him to the Dawn Court to get healed or whatever, but I'm not going to spoil everything, but it's very angsty and very cute, and Eris has a love interest in it as well. So.
Oh, I love that. I'm so excited.
So the day one chapter 1 prompt was family. And I know everyone does like Eris and Lucian or Eris and Lady Autumn. So I'm like, I want to do Eris and Helion. Because like he kind of knows that they're mates. And after Baron's dead, if his mother's with Helion, he's going to have some sort of relationship with Helion. And he's Lucian's father, right? So
That's
he
true.
is going to be his stepfather. So I wanted to do like a little conversation between them, and at one point Helion is like, I really didn't think too deeply about like everything that was happening here, and like I'm sorry for any assumptions that I'd made about you in the past and all that. And it's really cute actually. And Eris actually gets like really vulnerable because for some reason he's like, oh, maybe I could trust him. Because
right?
Yeah. Because in the beginning of the chapter, Lady Autumn is there and Helion is like, I had a discussion with Lucian the other day. And it started with him asking me for help controlling a new power that's manifesting in him. And do you want to tell me why he has day court powers? And she's like, yeah, he's your son. And it's very emotional and very cute. And then they go into this whole long thing about what they had to do to keep Lucian safe and everything. And so then Helion trusts Eris, and then Eris trusts Helion with some of his very deeply guarded secrets and past. And yeah, it ends on kind of like a angsty note, but then chapter 2 prompt is High Lord, so that's when he gets his High Lord powers after Baron's dead. And then prompt 3, which was today, I'm behind, is secrets. So the third chapter is going to be Lucian's whole conversation with Eris. And Eris bringing him to his parents. That's going to be a big one. It's going to be...
And to his parents?
Huh?
Eris bringing Lucian to his parents?
Because Lady Autumn's safe in day now, and Lucian has no idea what's going on. So he's going to be like, there's a lot more than just that secret, too, that you guys will see in the first chapter. But there's a lot of secrets that Lucian does not know about himself, and it's kind of sad.
I'm like, how many more secrets can they have? Well, Lucian is a secret love child. I mean, that's huge. That in and of itself, I feel like that's like secret cap right there, right?
Yeah. So I do kind of use not a trope, but an idea that I use in my bigger fic as well, where they had to basically bind his day court powers as a kid. And Eris and Lady Autumn basically tell Helion the story about how when he was little and like very excited or whatever, he would glow. And so they're like, Baron can't find out about this shit. And they had to like put these potions in his food to like bind him, or at least his day court powers. And so they did that every night, like his whole childhood and into like his adolescence or whatever. And Lady Autumn's like, I don't know what the side effects are. Like, I just wanted him to have a life. Right. So that's why his powers haven't really manifested till now, because it's like slowly creeping back in after like centuries.
I was gonna say, Lucian and your powers. Okay. So. This sounds, you're her fanfic. For those of you who haven't read it, you need to read it. Amazing.
I have so many, but I have a few that I'm particularly very proud of. There's my main one, and then there's a day court illusion one called Love and Light. And then there is this one that I'm working on, which was the Autumn's Awakening for Eris.
I love the Lawrence Hamlin Reese one personally.
Yes, that is a prequel. I'm actually working on chapter 2 to that one. Don't worry.
It's really good because I want you to post there. Let me know so I can.
I will. Yeah, there's I work on so much. Like I have my main fic, and then I have that prequel, and then I have the Andrus prequel.
Yes.
Andrus's life.
Oh, gosh.
And the former Spring Inner Circle, which is actually not just Andrus, but it's Andrus and Lucian and Tamlin and a female named Bryn.
Okay.
Which was their little inner circle family, and obviously Bryn and Andrus are dead, which is but yeah, so it's like Andrus and Bryn's stories and what they went through. And if you have read my main fic up to where I am now, you'll know that there's a little child involved somewhere, and that connects directly to my Andrus and Bryn prequel. So
I love it. You're so fun reading all your stuff.
So anyway, back to Eris, now that I did that little shameless fanfic plug, because I've been writing and editing all day. So it's so hard taking the RP, like copying the whole RP and then editing it, because they're two different formats. So I have to like take it and then put it into like an actual story format, which is exhausting, and it takes a long time. So that's why I'm only working on chapter 2 right now. But
that's okay.
It'll get done eventually. It's fine.
It's gonna get done. I know it will. It'll get done.
So we're going to go over these points pretty quickly, because I think we've probably gone over most of them in the past.
Yeah, we talk about Eris. It's so funny because we always start like somewhere else
with like a specific.
We always end with like Eris or Lucian. Like we must be a Autumn Court. I don't know.
I am. So, hello, you didn't notice the little autumn leaves today. It was between this or fire.
I like the autumn leaves. I like the leaves.
All right. Let's go over this one quickly. I know we've kind of been through before, but the little meeting with Feyre and Rhys and Eris, and Feyre says, You mean the brother whose lover you helped execute before his eyes? And Eris says, you know nothing about that night. Nothing.
Put her in her place. Come on, Eris. Eris, I love him.
So he says to Feyre, that is the one thing I have ever denied my father. I wasn't there. And then he explains how he was thrown in the dungeon at that point. And obviously didn't see Jesmond actually get killed because he didn't take part in it. And by the time he woke up, he anonymously can't speak today. Anonymously got word to Tamlin to get the hell over to his border to help Lucien. Now, question. Do you think that SJM just forgot what she wrote in ACOTAR and it was like a little whatever?
Yeah.
Or do you think it was on purpose depending on what Lucien was told or what he saw?
So I feel my personal opinion is that I think she forgot personally because it
But like her
doesn't really...
editors don't catch that. Like this is what editors are for. They're supposed to know.
I know.
It's weird.
Everything. They're supposed to know everything. And I recently found out, I think I was reading one of her interviews, like she apparently has really good editors and they have a massive like timeline. Did you hear about this?
No.
They have to. So apparently there's this like massive timeline of like all the events that have happened or something like that. And they make sure that everything like checks out.
But
So
it doesn't. Hardly anything checks out. Yeah.
None of it makes sense.
It's so weird because, well, yeah. So, I mean, Tamlin had to have gotten it from Lucien himself, right?
Yeah.
I would imagine. But he says, like, his two eldest brothers, right? Two eldest brothers held him down. And then Eris is like, you know nothing about that night. Like, I wasn't there. I was trapped in the dungeon. And I think I've gone over this before because I repeat myself all the time, apparently. But
I do too.
I have definitely gone over this before, but I'm just going to say it real quickly again. My personal headcanon is that Baron purposely made one of the other brothers wear Eris's boots.
So tell me why would he do that? What's the purpose of that though?
Because I think that he knew that Eris and Lucien were the closest brothers.
Mm-hmm.
I think he, at this point, at least has a clue that Lucien isn't actually his son. And I think he knows that Eris would protect his mother's secret. And he couldn't really get him to talk about anything. So I think basically ripping them apart or trying to destroy their relationship was the motivation here. Which he obviously successfully did because Lucien believes that it was Eris, right?
See, so do you think that she forgot or do you think that it was purposely done?
I don't know. Like, I want to see it come up in Eris's story. I think we're probably going to get his with Moore's novella. I would love to see it come up, like, in his POV, like, kind of how we had her flashback of, like, the day at the border when she was nailed, which we'll talk about later. But I kind of want, like, a flashback to that day in Eris's point of view when he's talking about Lucien, because I feel like just us as a fandom, even though there's really no clues for it, we're just like, oh, Eris and Lucien were totally close when Lucien was a baby.
There's artwork that like shows them as, have you seen that art? It's actually really cute.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I definitely think that Eris knows that he's Helian's and he's keeping the secret for the mother.
Yeah.
Whether Lucien knows or not, it's anyone's guess. He kind of, he goes back and forth with that, but yeah, I don't know. I Lucien's Eris's favorite brother. Like, how can he not be?
I think it's interesting,
but
he's visiting him in the end of, was that Akafas? Yeah, it was Akafas that they were visiting at the House of Exiles, right?
Yeah, which again we don't get the fucking scene of, which is annoying.
It's super annoying. Or it was Silver Flames. I can't quite remember. Silver Flames.
Silver Flames, yeah.
Okay.
But see, the thing is, when him and the brothers go to hunt Lucian and Feyre when they're on the Autumn Court lands in Akawar, Eris goes for Feyre. He doesn't touch Lucian. I find that funny as the oldest that he would rather go for Feyre than go for Lucian.
Yes.
Because Lucian's the one with the bounty on his head. You know?
Yeah. Interesting. I reread that chapter. I really love that chapter in Akawar where it was talking about Eris in general when they caught up with them, and how his father was pissed that he was like really put out that they weren't stopping by to see him, you know? And I just cracked up. I'm like,
father requests your presence, and then Feyre's like, he's gonna either kill us or trade us or blah blah blah, you know? Like, he definitely would have killed Lucian.
Do you think he would have?
Baron, absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. What's the first thing he said in the High Lords meeting?
Where's my
errant son? Yeah.
But see, here's my thing. When he said that, I didn't think he wanted to kill him. I don't know why. Like, I feel like there's more to it.
I feel like he wants to affirm that he's miserable. Like, that's the vibe that I got. That he, like, loves that he's, like, homeless and miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
Because as they say, like, he just couldn't prove that Lucian wasn't his son.
Yeah.
So he kind of basically knows he's not, right? He just couldn't do anything about it because he couldn't prove either way.
Yeah.
So,
but also I love that there's kind of like going back to Lucian and like the Eris thing, right? And I see this a lot in the fandom, a lot of arguing over like skin tones and stuff like that. If there was clearly not a massive difference, just like
it says twice. So in the High Lords meeting, when Feyre realizes Helian's his father, she's like, oh, the skin that's like 2 shades darker than his brother's. And then when they're running, I think in Akawar, and she's like, the skin that's only a few shades darker than his brother's or whatever. And I'm like, it's only a few.
Yeah. So he's got to be like a light tan.
He's like a light tan, like, yeah.
Yeah, it's not significant to the point, but it's enough to where I'm sure Baron would have been like.
Which goes back to some of the inconsistencies, even though I don't think in ACOTAR SJM knew she was going to make Helian Lucian's father, but in ACOTAR Under the Mountain, I just think it's so funny when I reread, and they was like, this has to be Lucian's father. He looks exactly like him about Baron. And then the High Lords meeting, she's like, the same nose, the skin tone, the features. I'm like, what?
What's going on?
He looks like both of them.
And that's the dilemma. Like, how is that possible? It's so
because he probably looks like, I feel like he probably looks most like his mother, but with like nose or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he's just like a little tanner, like golden, more golden skinned than pale.
Yeah.
But yeah, And then during that scene, which is something I didn't have in my notes, Feyre actually, they're trying to leave the cave and she throws fire up to like the thing, hoping that it'll like fall down and crush them or whatever. And she notes that Eris looks like he could be a god of wrath.
Yeah. I actually, hold on, I think I put a tab on that.
I love that so much.
Well, I think that's really interesting. Interesting wording, right?
Yeah.
The god of wrath.
Mm-hmm.
I want to find it. I want to find that because I feel like that's going to be a really important.
But also, Eris is a literal goddess. It's the goddess of strife. Strife, chaos, whatever.
Which he certainly has been making a lot of in all these books, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I just think it's funny that whole entire time both in the cave and then when they catch up to them at the lake, not once does Eris go for Lucian. Not once. It's always Feyre. And the other two brothers who he knows aren't as powerful as him. And he's like, see, this is why I think he knows definitely that Lucian is Helions, because he's like, he can probably fend those two off, right?
Yeah, he doesn't even like he doesn't even bother really with Lucian. Like he's like
Lucian was fighting two of them.
Yeah.
And Feyre was just trapped with Eris until Cassian and Azriel arrived, and then Azriel was fighting the two brothers with Lucian. Yeah. But I'm like, Lucian held them off, like they didn't scrape him or nothing. And I want to know how, because the focus was on Feyre, and it bothered me.
Also, though, like, I wonder why SJM doesn't name his two other brothers. Like, isn't that weird?
Or his mother.
Why can't we have Lady
of the Autumn Court? What?
I want to know what's behind that. Like, why does she just omit certain people's names?
So weird.
King of Hybern. What's your name, King of Hybern? Like, really?
What's your name, King of Hybern? It's funny. Azriel's brothers, Azriel's father, a lord of Illyria.
Yeah.
So you're telling me you didn't see his father or brothers at any point during this war? Like, nobody was like, oh, Azriel's awful, whatever is over there.
I know.
What?
Like, really? Okay, so I love this part of it's ACOWAR, and I just wanted to go over it because I think it's going to be really significant later. The quote is, as Eris's livid face emerged from my net of flame, glowing like a new forged god of wrath, Lucian and I brought down the cave ceiling.
He's also
god
glowing.
God of wrath?
So does he also have a little bit of Starborn in him? Does that mean Gwen has a little bit of Starborn in her?
I'm telling you, like, the more as the time goes on, I'm convinced that we're reading like about like I think they're all going to become gods and goddesses eventually. Don't you think so?
I wouldn't say all. I think more of like, I don't know. I feel like we're just going to figure out like who's descended from who.
You think so?
I think not to get off track with Eris or anything, but I definitely think that Hunt and Cassian are both descended from Thur.
I could see that.
I want to see what Cassian's fucking power is. I want to see what Lucian's fucking power is. Lucian did use some of his flame.
Yes, I was just going to tell you. I reread that ACOWAR chapter. Yeah. I was like, oh, he did use his flame.
He did. Yeah.
He did.
But like a little bit.
Just a tiny.
He didn't let it get out of control.
No. Just a little teaser. That's what he's doing. It's funny because we talked about this. Like the people that you don't see powers from, it's Lucian, right? It's Cassian. We really don't see Mor's power. I mean,
I know.
Right?
Yeah. Mor and Eris book.
Oh,
I told you there has to be a reason they're mates. I'm 100% sure they're rejected mates. 100% sure.
Are you really? You feel that confident about it?
I'm that confident about it.
Yeah.
And I think Mor puts on this act where she just, like I said, like she just doesn't acknowledge it, or she pretends. Because she literally she like scents him and all this stuff. I have like everything written about like Mor and Eris, but we'll get into it later. But yeah, it's so obvious, and then she just treats him like shit, and it pisses me off.
Well, that's what pisses me off too, is if you're mates, you think you'd have like a little bit more respect for your mate, and she's just
Eris
really
does, but she doesn't.
No, she's awful to him, but Mor's awful to like everybody, so
yeah. I'm not gonna get into that because that's
I know, don't do it. Don't do it.
But yeah, just I think it's hilarious that she named Eris after a goddess.
So okay,
and Helios, the sun god,
and Nyx is a goddess of night.
The goddess of night. Like,
why are you naming all these people after these goddesses? I mean, do you think it's just like coincidence?
Beeson,
like
Thiessen, did you see that video that I sent you on TikTok?
No, I didn't. What was
Did
it?
I not tell you before? I don't think we even filmed it. Remember when I said that like Lucian had Narbin and then Tamlin also glowed
Yeah.
or whatever. So how I was saying it was like spring, autumn, day, and dawn with the
Yeah.
most whatever. So I couldn't figure out like who in Dawn would have whatever powers or whatever. It is Thiessen. Because I reread Akawar and Feyre does note like, oh, Thiessen, the High Lord of Dawn, who glowed brighter than all the other High Lords. He glows the brightest out of all of them.
What?
Which would be weird because dawn more than day. And so I sent you a video. I think it was from Emily's Theories, maybe.
Oh, I do love her stuff, even though it really.
So obviously it was like Helios, Helion, and then it was going through whatever. So Thiessen is some sort of variation of Eos, which is the god of dawn.
What?
Yeah, it's some sort of I forget what exact language, but it's a variation of Eos, who's the god of dawn. Yeah. I was like, I didn't even put that together. But I knew it was someone I knew there was something with the Dawn Court. I've been saying that forever. I was like, it's day, it's dawn. I don't think night has that much, but I think they at least have a little from, Azrael, unless they have shadow singing and they have Starborn, whatever. It depends. But yeah, I just needed to throw that out there. And I love it. It is
it's also like super sus that we haven't heard anything about the Dawn Court, like truly, except for Nuon, and that Thiessen has a lover.
My favorite underrated girl.
She's super underrated, and she's amazing. Like, she's brilliant. Like, she doesn't get enough hype. I love it.
A whole paragraph about why I ship Eris and Nuon here.
They would be so wonderful.
Okay, do you know how popular like AO3 is, right? Like
Yeah.
You know how popular that is? I have the only 2 fanfics ever on AO3 with Eris and Nuon as a couple.
Do you really?
The only ones! I was like, when I said I made them up, I didn't mean I actually made them up, but apparently I did.
You did, and we're saying it here and now. You're the first person to call Nuon and Eris as a ship.
They're my favorite. I
would love them together. I think.
And you know what? I'll just get into it real quick before we get into the rest.
Yeah,
but
let's do it.
Do you know why I ship them so hard?
Why?
Because of like Feyre's one line about Eris in that scene. So she was like talking about the antidote or whatever, right?
Right.
And Eris goes, "I will take it." And then Baron's like, "No, you won't. But your brothers will be sorely disappointed," or whatever, so you won't die, so they can get the throne or whatever. And so then what Feyre said next was like, ding. She said, it was the most decent he had ever sounded. I know. Yeah, I know. It was so cute.
I'm just confused.
But not only that, I have so many highlights. I have so many highlights.
Let's do it.
I can find them.
Let's talk about it.
I gotta find them again. But yeah, I can find it. I'll just edit this out later. But I'm going to find it because it's like my favorite. You know what? I'm just gonna go to my Kindle and search Nuon because there's really not a lot about her, so it'll pop right up.
Do it. There isn't. She has a pretty significant part in Aquawar, though.
She literally saved everybody from fucking Fabane, and everyone's like, "Who's Nuon?" I'm like, "Excuse me, slandering my girl.
Let me tell you.
Let me tell you who Nuon is. Let me tell you."
Well, and then she's the one that made Lucian's eye too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So, Before anyone could reply, a high fae female appeared at the edge of the circle. She bowed so quickly that I barely glimpsed more than her light brown skin and long silken black hair. She wore clothes similar to Theson's, and yet her sleeves had been rolled up to the forearms, the tunic unbuttoned to her chest, and her hand. I guessed who she was before she rose. Her right hand was solid gold and mechanical, the way Lucian's was. It clicked and whirred quietly, drawing the eye of every immortal in the room as she faced her High Lord. Thesan smiled in warm welcome. So I think they're like BFFs. I think that's really cute.
They have to be.
Have to be. That's how I wrote them anyway. And then she goes on to say, I wonder if Amryn had modeled her features after her. Amryn and Fury and Nuon. Imagine if fucking Fury was Nuon. That would be awesome.
I would be like, holy shit.
Didn't she have like all the guns and shit?
Oh yeah, Fury is like a badass.
Yeah. But anyways, then he says Nuon is one of my most skilled craftspeople. Reese leaned back in his seat, brows rising with recognition at the name, and jerked his chin to Baron and Eris. You might know her as the person responsible for granting your errant son, as you call him, the ability to use his left eye after Amarantha removed it. Nuon nodded once in confirmation, her lips pressing into a thin line as she took in Lucian's family. And then a little bit farther down, she says that she found the solution for Fabane. How did you get those samples? Cassian demanded. A flush crept over her cheeks. I heard rumors and assumed Lucian Vanserra would be residing there after... ... What happened? She still didn't look at Tamlin, who remained silent and brooding. And then she explains all that stuff. And then it says, despite their mutual friend, like they didn't pay attention to each other. Which
it said that?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it's so awkward between Tamlin and Nuon?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know.
Unless he went to Nuon to see if there was a way to end the tattoo
probably.
And she couldn't figure it out, and then they ended up together anyways. I don't know. Maybe I'm making it up. I'm just trying to figure out like why they won't look at each other.
I don't know. But see, this is part of my Reese's controlling people shtick, so I'm not going to get into that. Nuon has been able to quickly create a powerful powder for us to ingest and drink food however you please. It grants immunity from the Fabane. And then Thesan says, I already have workers in 3 of my cities, which Dawn must be huge. Manufacturing as much of it as possible to hand out to our unified armies. And then Tarquin says, what about physical objects made of Fabane? And she goes, against that, you only have your wits to protect you. I love her. Baron said, and we're supposed to trust you with this substance we're to blindly ingest? Would you rather face Hybern without any power? Thesan demanded. My master alchemists and tinkerers are no fools. No, but where did she come from? Who are you? And then she explains how she's from Zion, and he's like, well, you are from Zion. And Thesan's like, watch it. Half my court's from Zion, and my mother was Zionic. That was cool. Nuon said to the Lord of Autumn, her chin high, I am a child of Prythia, and I was born here on this land as your sons were.
I love it.
And then he goes, watch your tone. And then Feyre's like, she doesn't have to watch anything when you fling that horse shit at her. Which that was one good thing that Feyre said.
I do like Feyre for saying that.
Baron rolled his eyes, but Eris said, father. Baron lifted a brow. You have something to add? Eris didn't flinch, but he chose his words very carefully. I have seen the effects of Fabane, obviously, because Baron's using it on him. Nodded towards Feyre. You never got that?
What? He's using it on Eris?
Definitely using it on Eris. That meeting with Cassian and Akasif when he's, uncomfortable and squirming was days later.
Wait. Walk me through this real quick, because you've just dropped a bomb on me, and I did.
So, Fabane, when ingested, takes away your powers, right?
Right.
And then we know the Hybern shackles takes away your powers or whatever.
Right.
Fabane, if say it was on a whip and someone was lashed with it, they might not be able to heal immediately with their Fey healing. And it might last a few days. So, because remember, Ferris says, or is it? Oh no, Branna. I think it was Branna when they're bragging about like giving the Faebane to them. They're like, it lasts like 3 days, and you won't get your powers back for like 3 days or whatever. So then I was like, this is a few days after he returns from being taken by Brielin, and Cassian notes that Baron would rather punish him for getting caught than be grateful that he's alive.
Yeah, like all the High Lords did with their sons.
And Cassian's like, he's squirming uncomfortably in his jacket or whatever. I'm like, he definitely whipped him with Faebane. Like, that immediately registered with me. And everyone's like, what? And I was like, that didn't click?
No. This is the first time, but thank you for educating me on that.
I was like,
God.
I'm like, that's exactly why Baron didn't want him to take the antidote. Because that's how he fucking tortures them.
Holy shit. And that's why he would be so willing to take it, too. Because he's like, I want to see what I'm like without the Faebane.
Yeah. And Baron's like, no, you won't. And he's like, I've seen the effects of Faebane. Looks at Feyre.
Eris said that?
Yeah, looks at Feyre, though. Because remember when they were on the ice and whatever. But that was what it was supposed to mean, right? But by the time they're on the ice, they have their powers back. Full force. And Feyre had her power of fire in the cave.
That's
so
true.
How did Eris even know that they were drugged with Faebane? Enough to say, I've seen the effects of Faebane, and look at Feyre. It's because
he's so familiar.
Feyre, it was him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. So then he must be doing the same thing to Lady A, right? To keep her submissive, putting it in her food, maybe.
Probably.
So she can't leave.
Oh, probably. And how thin she is.
Yeah.
And actually, yes, because when Feyre accidentally explodes
and burns her,
what happens? She burns her arm. It stays red and angry. That Feyre knows that it's like red and angry after. Wouldn't it have just healed if it was a surface wound?
Healed, right? Yes. So he's drugging his entire family so that no one can kill him for his court.
I don't think he's drugging Eris because remember, Eris is the heir. He's the courtier, so he has to go court to court or whatever. But I think he's whipping him with it whenever he missteps.
Yeah.
Hello, Nesta and Grandmama.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah. Anyways, he goes, I will not risk my people or family in testing out a theory. It is no theory, Nuance said, her mechanical hand clicking and whirring as it curled into a fist. I would not stand here unless it had been proved without a doubt. A female of pride and hard work. Eris said, I will take it. It was the most decent I'd ever heard him sound, even more blinked at it.
Even more blinked at it?
Baron studied his son with a scrutiny that made some small part of me wonder if Eris might have grown to be a good male if he'd had a different father. Shut the fuck up, Feyre.
Yeah.
What about you? What if you had a different father?
Yeah.
If one still lurked there beneath centuries of poison. Literal poison? Or figurative poison, SJM?
Yes.
Literal poison. Ba-boom. And then Feyre notes, because Eris, what had it been like for him under the mountain? What games had he played, and what had he endured trapped for 49 years? I doubt he would risk anything like that happening again, even if it set him in opposition to his father, or perhaps because of that. Baron said, no, you will not, though I'm sure your brothers will be sorry to hear it. Indeed, the others seemed rather put out that their first barrier to the throne wasn't about to risk his life in testing Nuan's solution. And then there was another Tamlin, at least you have armies to give it to. Yes, bitch.
I love that I love that he called Feyre out during that meeting.
A
That was like the
headache
best.
began to pound at my temple. Good! Good, you fucking murderer.
It should. It should. But also
should.
it's kind of interesting that she had a headache pounding at her temple.
I'm sure.
Like, is that her suppressing her emotions, basically, the guilt that she experiences over that?
Doing his juju.
Yep, that's what I was thinking. Or is it?
I know this video is about Eris, but this fucking thing pisses me off every time. Back to the scene on the ice with Eris and Lucien and Feyre. Do you remember the part where, obviously you do, it's your favorite part, where he grabs her hair and starts dragging her?
I love that part.
Okay, do you remember what he does after that?
No. What does he do?
He binds her hands and feet with fire and puts a fire gag in her mouth.
Of the fire gag.
And so every time someone says he's a bad person, I always quote this because Feyre says, I knew that the gag and bonds of fire would burn if Eris willed it. If he wanted to hurt them and actually get them back to Baron, he would have.
Oh, and totally.
The way he let her, like, elbow him in the face and, like, in the balls, like, he's letting you win, bruh.
Yeah. Yeah. He let them get away. Like, let's be real.
He's letting you win. Come on.
He totally is letting them win.
I just thought it was funny.
I loved it.
But then, like, Cassian, really, you're going overboard? You're gonna stab him through the gut? Come on. Feyre had it handled.
I know.
Once she was like, I'm High Lady of the Night Court. First of all, shut up. First of all, nobody gives a flying fuck about your fake title, okay?
Okay, also, like, you've said it how many times now?
Almost as much as my mate.
Or
her watery bowels in ACOTAR.
I love when I'm on, like, my Reddit, right? And then I just see people bitching. And people everywhere. Complain about that.
Vulgar gesture.
What's a phrase that bothers you that SJM rates a lot?
Yeah.
All the time, watery bowels. I was like, well, it doesn't really bother me, but okay.
Hit my mate, vulgar gesture.
Yeah.
But yeah, he let them get away. And as I was saying, not once did he ever turn his attention toward Lucien, because I don't think he would be able to actually do that.
I really want to deep dive and see their relationship, because I feel like it could be such a sweet brother.
He is like behind the scenes. He does everything to protect Lucien. Like even in this, like by not paying attention to him and just letting the weaker brothers handle him, like, come on.
But Lucien seems convinced that Eris is a snake. He says that to the inner circle.
I know. Well, because again, he thinks that Eris held him down, and he thinks that Eris would have dragged them back, and like he wouldn't have.
No, Eris, like, he let them go easily. Easily. Yeah. I just love that he dragged Feyre. Like, I would pay money to watch that scene. Drag her by her hair. She fucking deserves it.
Especially after she was like, wait, Cassian trained me. Like, oh, now you're getting it?
Oh, yeah. Oh.
See, that bothers me because everyone's like, there's no way the Valkyries would have won the blood right just from 6 months of training with Cassian and Azriel and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, there's no way Feyre would have won against Eris with 3 months of training with Cassian either. But
here we are. Yeah.
Here we are. And apparently she won against Eris, which she really didn't. He let her go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think he was afraid of Feyre. I think he was more afraid of Azriel.
I did love when it was like a shadow just like plummeting down
Smashed
to
into
the
the ice.
I read that and I was like, oh my God. I freaked out.
I can't wait, particularly for Azriel's reaction when he realizes that Mor has been lying through her teeth about Eris.
I hope that poor boy is like, you're a terrible human being. And like, I hope it just
I need
frees his heart, you know?
And I need Eris to fucking say it to her face too and be like, but like he wouldn't, because we know like as her rejected mate, he still fucking protects her. Like how he is with Lucian. He still protects her behind the scenes. And nobody is grateful for it. Nobody sees it. Nobody believes it because they're all apt to just believe he's this horrible person.
I
don't like
it. So here's my thing, like, does he only protect her because of their mate bond? Like it would cause him pain somehow? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Or is it because he like genuinely cares about her still?
I mean, again, the thing with Cassian and Eris, you can't deny that SJM is plugging them together. Because Cassian, again, is the one who's asking Mor, like, when's your father coming? And she's like, oh, like, Eris gave me time indefinitely or whatever. And he's like, well, it seems like an act of good faith. Like, what?
See? Cassian's not all that bad. He's not all horrible. He's not great.
When he's good, he's propping up Eris to be the next love interest.
Damn it. I set myself up for that with you.
You did.
So,
but anyway, yeah, don't believe the lies they tell you about me. She knows, but she has never revealed the truth. For a speaker of truth, she's totally lying about the whole context, about what actually happened. I did go over how I think that they're kind of snowing everyone, and they really don't hate each other that much because it's a little overdone with the insults.
I could see that.
And especially when she was like, oh, you know, like, if he had touched me, Baron would have tied me to the marriage bed. Like, so then why do you hate him?
That's what I mean, is like, so you couldn't be like, oh, I see what he did there. Like, does
he
she
gave
really
me my freedom.
What he did?
He left me where my family found me. Which I think, like I said before, that he got word to somebody anonymously and was like, yeah, she's at the autumn border, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, he basically saved her from the same life she was living with Kier, just transferred to him and Baron. And know Baron literally would have forced it.
Do you think so?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because he wanted them to have powerful heirs.
Yeah. You know, when I first read this book, I was like, and I found out that Mor was gay, right? And this might be a little insensitive, but I was like, I think that Eris might be gay too. Like initially I was like, I think he's gay. And then I was like, well, it would be a good marriage because they could just lie and say they tried to have heirs and they couldn't have heirs and they could go live like their separate lives and stuff like that.
Can you imagine if they were like, she can't have heirs because you nailed her in the womb, Kier?
Yes. Can you imagine that? But like, I feel like they would just be like BFFs. You know what I mean? Like they could go do their own thing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I definitely don't think they actually hate each other. And I know everyone's like, how? Like, why? They do hate each other. But like I said, it's super exaggerated. It's always the slut comment, the bastard comment, the whatever, blah, 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 blah. Snake.
Well, Mor definitely hates him, but I think it's because, and I know he doesn't hate her, but I think she hates him just because he represents.
It could be some little thing.
Something.
But also, which we went over in the other podcast episodes, but this is an Eris video, so I have to bring it up again. When Azriel chokes him out at the meeting, and Mor is pale and shaking,
Yes.
over a half an hour after the fact. But also, on top of that, so here's the mirror. We have more acting like that, right? And then why did Azriel do that? Because he called her a slut or whatever. Good to know you still dress like a slut or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, he like notices, he had to notice her reaction, right? And he turns to her and he says, "I'm sorry, Morrigan." And then it says Lady Autumn's face bloomed with pride, even though Baron sneered or something.
Eris apologized?
Mm-hmm. And his mama was proud of him.
Oh,
His mommy was so proud of him.
this was in Akawar?
Yeah, it was in the
Wow,
same scene. It was right after.
forgot.
And then after, when she's talking to Vivian or whatever, and she's like, Eris is such an asshole. And Vivian's like, yeah, he's like an asshole or whatever. I'm like, first of all, Vivian, calm down.
Vivian, you don't even know what's going
Like,
on.
I love
girl.
her, but her and Moore act like teenagers.
Yeah. You know, I did love their initial friendship when they were like giggling and like talking all
But
that stuff.
again,
It was
like,
really-
you're at an official meeting and you're squealing like a 10-year-old. Like, what are you doing? Like, this is why Baron's like, we brought the females as a formality. Like, because you're acting immature. Stop.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then like Feyre doesn't help when she like attacks everyone. Like, I mean, it's like,
yeah,
come on. Really? Come on, guys.
Yeah.
I love that Lady A was so proud of her
I
son.
know. It's so cute. It's so cute.
I do love Eris.
I love him. But yeah, he apologized and she like didn't even
See, it's all Moore. Moore's like, she's kind of just
she's just a bitch.
She's kind of a hateful person, right?
But she loves Lucian. Just think it's
But
funny.
I wouldn't say love. She like tolerates him, right?
Well, she calls him the handsome one, and she's like snooping around like he will be happy. They'll be happy. It's fine, believe me. Like, she's really involved in Lucian's life.
How do you think
Behind
Moore?
the scenes? I don't know why. I mean, you could just say, yeah, he's the handsome one because you literally slept with his dad.
Yeah.
But like that is gonna be the most awkward fucking inner circle dinner when that comes out. And he has to meet them for some sort of emissary business. And she's gonna be like awkward. Yeah. But not only that, but quickly, like in my fic after Eris kills Baron and whatever, he's talking to Moore basically about like her and Helion or whatever. And he's like, you do realize that made for like the most awkward dinners of my life because Lady Autumn and Eris is their mates. He's like he's like, that is not a dinner you want to have with your mother.
No.
When your mates are fucking and you're both feeling it and you're like,
awkward. But to be real, like almost everyone in the ACOTAR world has probably slept with everybody else, right? It sounds like it's kind of like this like incestuous. Maybe not.
Okay, Cormac.
I know, that's right.
You and Bryce, and everyone's like, fuck you.
Yeah. They
He's
just
like, well, they all
kinda,
used to do it.
They all hook up.
I feel like that's kind of a clue, though. That like everyone's just cousins. Like everyone is cousins.
Yeah, they're like somehow related distantly.
They're all related.
Everyone's somehow related.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's see. I think I said how every single time he has a douchebag moment, it's either in front of Baron or Baron's guards or his brothers. Every time.
I like that. That makes a lot of sense.
Every single time.
Yeah.
And the times that he isn't, that like how he kept Kier from coming to Valaris or whatever, it's always mentioned either like in passing or off page. And it's like, oh, he did this in good faith. But it's like, okay, so he was sneaking around behind the Autumn Court's back. That's why. Because he's your ally.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in Silver Flames, like, he's a completely different person, right? Because, like, we don't see a lot of Baron at all in Silver Flames. Like, none. We're just talking about him, right?
Yeah, because he's off planning something with the queens and Koshi.
Yeah.
I'm very worried. Everyone underestimates Baron as like this douchebag, abusive buffoon, and there's a reason Eris is afraid of him. Let's just say that.
It's funny that you say it because I definitely underestimate him. Like, I'm just like, what could he possibly?
He's just a fucking buffoon. Like, yeah.
That's how I feel about him. But you want to know what he wants? So is it he just wants the Spring Court? Is that he just wants more land? Is that kind of what's going on there?
Power. And power.
And power? Do you really think it's like? I think he's so shallow to me.
He's the new Ianthe.
Yeah.
Because remember, Ianthe wanted to get rid of High Lords for the High Priestesses. I think Baron wants to become the new king.
The High King, now that Hybern is gone.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you this. Do you foresee the next ACOTAR book being Baron trying to kill Tamlin?
I don't know if he would try to kill Tamlin. I think all in all, like, I do think Baron is dangerous, but I think the first thing he's going to do, which is what all bad villains eventually do, is they go for revenge first over success, which is a pattern with a lot of villains that I've seen.
Okay.
Every time they have a chance to either execute their plan perfectly and win out or take their revenge, they always choose revenge.
I have never thought of that. I love that theme.
Yeah. And that's why they fail, because they always want their revenge first.
Because they can't rise above it. They can't be higher.
They can't. And I think that's why I think that's Baron's major thing. He's going to make some sort of bargain with Koshi and the queens for maybe power or whatever. But ultimately, Koshi's gonna like fuck him over because it's Koshi.
It's Koshi. Koshi is a heartless, soulless,
deathless, like piece of shit. He's like deathless. This fucking high fae male. Like, fuck off, dude.
But here's
I think he's gonna try to help him enact his revenge because I think Baron's biggest motivation at this point is probably revenge. So he'll probably go after Helion and Lucian first. And I think Eris is going to openly have to pick a side. And I think that's going to be a big thing.
Ooh, I kind of like it.
But also, Koshi has like a lot of these powers. He can shapeshift into people. He can shapeshift into any form he wants. So he could take anybody's form and pretend to be anybody.
That's super concerning.
If he can astral project as well, that means he wouldn't be bound to the lake while doing it. He could literally be anybody at any point. Anywhere. Like you said, how you thought he might be the astronomer.
Yeah.
But then, like, Hybern with the dark galaxy in his hand, it was weird.
Super weird. Also, Elaine sneaking off somewhere looking tense when she was doing so. What if
when she said that she was meeting with an older, wiser fae to, like, train her powers?
What if, what if
she was connected to Koshi?
Luring Elaine under false pretenses, acting like an old wise fae, and he's gonna entrap her.
And that goes along with the whole Koshi myth. But who saves her? But the husband, aka the mate.
I would love that for Lucian.
I would, as long as he didn't give himself to save her.
Yeah. No.
Because he would, because again, that's his pattern. He did it for Feyre. He did it for Tamlin.
He's like so sacrificial. I could see it happening, honestly. And here's the thing. If it's between Elaine and Lucian, I'm always going to pick Lucian.
Me too.
If it's like, who would you rather kill? You got to take Elaine. I'm sorry.
But the thing is, it's like, Koshi only likes to collect females, right? Whether he like, I don't know why. They're like his trophies or something. It's weird. And Elaine's like, all the females he has. So like, what could Lucian potentially give him other than an alliance, which he already has with Baron and the queens?
What if like Lucian...
what does Lucian honestly have to lose?
He has nothing.
He has his soul.
You shut the hell up right there. How dare you even suggest that? Oh, I'm gonna be furious at you. Oh.
No, but can you imagine if everything ends up full circle and like Lucian is like the equivalent of Jurian in the eye for Koshi?
You know what? This is going to be the Cassian Theory 2.0 with you, and I
love Lucian, okay? And we got off track because this is an Eris.
Okay, this is... Okay.
We always talk about Lucian.
Okay, we're gonna go back to Eris. Do you know, like, we always end up on Lucian. It's okay, Eris. Go back to Eris.
But no, I think Eris is gonna have to openly choose a side between, or Lucian goes to save Elaine, Eris goes to save Lucian.
Oh God. Something's gonna happen.
More and more recently, more recently, I am getting this very creeping, awful sensation that Eris is gonna die, and I don't want him to.
I could see that, because he doesn't really have, like, any...
I want him with Nuon.
I want them together, too. I'm concerned.
But she's not gonna do that. I know. I don't think she is either. Can I be your ghostwriter? Because I can do it better. I promise I'll do it better.
It's so funny.
Not better, but I can do all the characters justice. And not death.
You know what I could see happening too is Eris sacrificing himself for Lucian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or Helion, maybe. If Lucian just finds out that Helion's his dad, and
well, because really, like, what does Eris have, right? Like, Eris doesn't have anything. He doesn't really have, like, ties to very much. He's got his, like, hounds, but, like,
he has his
no wife. He has his doggies. He doesn't have his mate. He doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have children. He just
That's why he deserves fucking justice.
He does deserve... It's funny because there's so many good characters that deserve justice, and they never are gonna get them. Because that's SJM, right?
But like, see, this is why I know.
Who does that?
But this is why it's not going to be Tamlin that dies, because A, that's too easy, B, there were already too many opportunities, and C, like, nobody would care. Most of the fandom don't give a shit. They want him to die.
I think you have a really good point. I think she would possibly kill him off after he has, like, done maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right?
I still feel like it would be useless, because she already had 1,000,001 different, not to mention there's no other Spring Court bloodline that we've been introduced to. Like, he doesn't have a family, he doesn't have heirs, he doesn't have cousins. The only people we know from Spring are Bronn and Hart, and they're just sentries. They're not strong enough to be the next High Lord. And as we know, the magic picks the next strongest bloodline from the court. So it wouldn't be Lucian.
Are you sure that they're from the court? Because
yeah,
I could...
That's what Reese says, at least.
I could see Elaine. What I feel like she's trying to make Elaine the heir, even though Lucian is the day court heir. Like I feel like because remember, Feyre made that comment, "I'll do anything it takes to keep her away from the Spring Court."
Yeah, but she will keep her away from the Spring Court. That's the thing. And then Nesta's like, the Spring Court was made for Elaine. But I think I might be wrong. I think SJM is purposely kind of leading us there just to ignore other things. Yeah. Just to ignore everything else.
To not pay attention to the Autumn Court, you mean?
Yeah.
I could see it.
To not pay attention to the Autumn Court, to not pay attention to the Day Court.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see it. I think
there's just so much going on. And those were so random, and everybody attaches to it. And it's almost like the whole Rhys is a savior thing. And it's like how they're so blind to like everything Tamlin does because they believe Rhys is the savior. But it's like you got to dig deeper than that. She's purposely leading people.
See, that's what I think too. I was talking with someone online today, one of my friends. And we were trying to figure out the difference. I know this is an Eris video, but like between like Tamlin fans versus Rhys fans, because there's got to be something there, right? And I feel like the Rhys fans just refuse to put themselves in a different POV besides Feyre, right?
That's exactly the thing. It's critical reading versus POV reading.
Yeah. So I'm hoping, my hope is this, like going back to Eris, I hope she doesn't kill him off. I hope we're all going to be pleasantly surprised and that she's going to have a change of heart and not kill anyone else off because we've experienced enough death. Like, let's be real.
When though? We haven't. Nobody of significance has died in ACOTAR.
Not in ACOTAR, but we've all suffered through Crescent City and like.
Honestly, I'm gonna sound mean right now, but Lahaba wasn't a big deal to me. I'm sorry.
Are you kidding?
She was a little annoying. Honestly, everyone's gonna hate me.
Bangs, like she was the cutest thing. I cried. I bawled.
Cute, but she was like, she was just there.
And she was like shaking as she's like pounding her fist against the glass.
I know.
Quoting Sam.
I know.
I loved her. What about like, were you really upset when you heard about the pack in Connor? Because I was really upset.
I knew it was coming though. I already knew.
How did you know that?
I already knew about chapter 5 before I even started the book. I was like, oh crap, chapter 5. Oh crap, chapter 5. I knew it was going to be gory, which is why the fact that SJM says Flame and Shadow is going to be too much for some people to stomach kind of horrifies me.
It totally horrifies me.
I'm like, what is worse than like piles of people's skin and guts? Ooh.
I honestly I still think she's gonna cut off runes, you know what, but and then write it in detail.
Oh God. I think that I know everyone says Hunt's gonna die, but I think that she's just gonna wipe his mind. And there's actually a theory, I forget where I saw it, where someone thinks that his mind was already wiped once or twice before.
No, that was you and me talking.
He doesn't he doesn't remember or whatever, and that he's like way older than he thinks, and his mother wasn't his mother, and I don't know.
I personally think he's had his mind wiped before. This is not the first time. He has to be older. He has to be.
Okay, again, this is an Eris video.
Okay, Eris. We're going back to Eris. Sorry. Let's do it. So, Eris, so you are getting this creeping feeling that
I know, and I don't want to because there's that, but I'm still also extremely convinced that he's gonna end up with Nesta, so.
Let me ask you this. Why are you super invested in Eris? Like, what's the thing with him?
Because,
what's your main, pull?
Because he hasn't gotten a chance to just fucking be himself, and it bothers
Yeah.
me. Like,
I
we
agree.
haven't seen, like, him. We've seen his mask.
Yeah.
And the fact that every single character doesn't notice bothers me.
Yeah.
Because, oh, Reese can wear a mask, Feyre can wear a mask, Cassian and Azriel can wear a mask, but Eris is just a bad person. No.
That's how I feel about Tamlin too. It's a little ridiculous,
But see, everyone knows I hate Reese, but I do like that Reese kind of stands up for Eris, sort of.
well, he's willing to have an alliance with him, and that says a lot.
He gave him the maid dagger to kill Baron.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was shocked at that. And
Yeah.
actually, this is one of my points towards Nerys being endgame, was that scene, and Cassian is like, why is he giving one of Nesta's weapons to Eris? He was all pissy about it. But again, Cassian's back and forth on him too, because he's like, you bastard, or you whatever, and then he's like, you're a good male.
Yeah. It was funny. It was funny because, like, by the end of it, he's like, I've decided that Eris is a good male. I can tell.
Can I say something?
Of course.
You're not gonna like it though.
I knew it the minute you said that.
Take a drink. Take a shot.
I would.
I think I might have told you this before. I think that SJM purposely put those little scenes with Cassian and Eris in there as a sort of blessing.
No.
But also, did you see their dance scene? Come on.
I mean, they would be an amazing power couple, but like
But like,
okay, let me ask you something.
I have a whole highlight of Eris and Nesta mirrors just from that dance scene.
Okay,
from the dance scene.
Let's talk about that. But let me ask you this. How many lovers / relationships has Nesta been in? Do you know? It's only 2, right?
2.
And SJM's big thing is like number 3 is the
3,
right?
which is, but see, that's the thing that confuses me about Elaine, because like Grayson was, I guess,
First,
but then Azriel was and wasn't a little kind of the second. So
yeah. So Lucian would hopefully be the 3rd.
Well, yeah, I guess you can count. I don't really count Azriel, but I guess you can count Azriel because Feyre counted Isaac, and she said that she didn't love him. So
yeah. So I think it counts. So like, I mean, if there's any support for your Nerys theory, then I would say, yeah, maybe unfortunately Eris is going to be number 3.
But there's a quote. Oh, here it is. There's a quote in I'm gonna find it. Here it is. There's a quote in Akasif.
Okay.
When Nesta is training, and this is right after, I believe this is right after the dance scene. It's like the training after the whole dance in Dune City or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so Eris had mentioned like exactly what I told Azriel when I caught him spying. Like, you caught the spy master spying?
Eris did?
Yeah. He's like, I told you the same thing that I told your spy master when I saw him sneaking around my court. Which is why, again, Eris has a bloodhound. So, that reminded me of this. But also, what if Eris is also a spy master? He does have alliance now and all of that, and he is feeding them info on
Yeah.
Autumn. But Cassian says, keep doing what you're doing. He finished fastening his jacket. And this is obviously Nesta's POV. A brisk autumn breeze flowed past, bringing with it scents from the city below, bread and cinnamon and orange, roast meat and salt. Nesta inhaled, identifying each one, wondering how they could all somehow combine to create a singular sense of autumn. Like, that's very random. Very random. Very random.
That she was able to differentiate and appreciate.
So I'm thinking that Eris's scent is cinnamon and orange.
I could see it.
Because Lady Autumn's is apples.
Okay.
We don't know Lucian's. Again, weird. Of course.
So weird.
But yeah, bread and cinnamon and oranges. So I wrote, going back to Azriel not being able to breach Autumn to the heights that he would like and Eris catching him, what if Eris is also a spy master and his scent could have been the cinnamon and orange?
That Nesta was smelling. Like, was he, are you saying he was maybe like around there?
He could be. If he's like one of the bloodhounds, like maybe he has shadows, but like white shadows?
Okay.
I don't know. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. And then there is Nesta asked, does it bother you that I'll be dancing with Eris more? No, because I know you're going to make him crawl before the end of it. Which did Nesta get a sense that they were rejected mates? Because why is she like asking her for permission? Like if it bothers her.
Yeah.
Nesta and all her power. And then here's the dagger. A present, Rhys said, and Cassian caught a glimpse of the familiar hint in the box, the dagger that Nesta had made. Cassian refrained from whirling on Rhys and Feyre, demanding to know what the hell they were thinking. Eris sucked in a breath. Feyre said, you can sense its power, which, okay. There's flame in it, he says, not touching the dagger, as if his own magic warned him. Why give this to me? You're our ally. You face enemies that exist outside of the usual rules of magic. It seemed only fair to give you a weapon that operates outside those rules, too. So I wrote, they have contrasting yet the same flame powers. Eris is gifted her made dagger by Rhys. Cassian is appalled and pissed, but Rhys meddles in all of their love lives, as we know. He even goes as far to tell Azriel to stay away from Elaine because Lucian is her mate. So clearly Rhys respects bonds and endgame even above his brothers. So why gift Eris her made dagger and not Cassian? Just because of Theron? Just because of Theron?
On the flip side of that, though, why allow Nesta and Cassian to mate and have a mating ceremony if he wants her with Eris?
Maybe he thought chaining him to something as powerful as the cauldron would save him or something. I don't know. Because remember, he does say in Akathas, maybe there are some threads to be woven.
I do remember that. That was a very suspicious quote.
As for the whole enemies that exist outside of the usual rules of magic weapon thing, I put, because Death has walked beside Eris too, at the hands of his very own father, a strained parental relationship that Nesta could relate to as well. Rhys gifts Eris Nesta's made dagger to protect him from Baron, because Death walks beside him every day in the Autumn Court, and even Feyre recognizes this. There's so much more. There's so much more. There's a passage, and this is all the same scene. So it says, she seemed to be half listening. Maybe music meant more to her than the dagger, more than magic and power. And then Eris says, whatever you want, I'll give it to you in exchange for her as my bride. I would rather have her than that about the dagger. So Nesta would rather music than power, and Eris would rather a companion than power.
Is it companion, or does he know what Nesta stole from the cauldron and can use her as
Maybe.
a weapon?
Well, because it says, Reese says it's not my decision, and it seems foolish for you to offer me anything I want in exchange for her anyway. So why? And then Eris says, I have my reasons. From the shadows in his eyes, Cassian knew something more lay beneath the rash offer, something that even as his spies hadn't picked up on at the Autumn Court. So Nesta and Eris are both people that Azriel and his spies can't really breach. Azriel struggled previously with Autumn, and we know that Eris is hiding a lot because of he's playing a long game, and I think somehow he needed Nesta for his court. Maybe.
Yeah.
And then we have, she let him see a bit of that person, see the savage rage and silver fire he'd witnessed before Tamlin. Then she blinked and it was gone. Eris's face tightened, but not from fear. He twirled her again, the waltz, blah, 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 and whispered in her ear, they say your sister Elaine is the beauty, but you outshine her tonight. He's not afraid of that power at all.
No.
But, something I just thought of, the savage rage and silver fire. So if Eris is the god of wrath, that would be cool.
That would be cool.
But also Nesta trusted him enough to show him her power for seemingly no reason. But again, Eris walks beside death. While he's so numb to the threat that it doesn't frighten him, he still does freeze in the face of it. She'd seen a queen of the night as merciless and cold and beautiful as the god Lanthus had wanted to make her, Death's consort, Death herself. Flame simmered in Eris's eyes and he spun her again. Not a prescribed move in the dance, but she followed through anyway, snapping her head around to meet his gaze once more, her skirts twirling. His lips curled with approval, his test passed. So she shows him a bit of her flame, he shows her a bit of his flame. Hot and cold, death and decay. And then that thing at the end. Nesta went for the twirl, and Eris went with her, eyes blazing with feral delight. Nesta, this once human female who had conquered death. So weird. And Eris followed her lead in the dance, which could be a metaphor for their compatibility and death or anything. Reese said, anything I want, whether it be armies from the Autumn Court or your firstborn, you would grant me in exchange for Nesta Archeron as your wife. Eris glared, not as far as the firstborn, but yes, you want armies against Briallyn and my father, you'll have them. I couldn't very well let my wife's sister go into battle unaided, could I?
I did love that. I loved that sentence.
I'll consider it and talk to Nesta. Keep the dagger, though. You might need it. And then Nesta spun solo on the toes of one perfect foot and smiled, not a courtier's slick smile, not a coy one, but one of pure, wild joy brought by the music and the dance and her wholehearted yield to it. By the time she finished the last rotation, that absurd defiance of basic laws of movement and space, which again, weird, Eris had her hand again, spinning her 3 more times, his red hair glinting like fire, as if an echo to the unchecked dark joy bursting from her. An echo. We don't see Cassian acting that way with Nesta. But anyway. Nesta's mother had wanted a prince for her. Cassian now thought she'd undervalued her daughter. Only a king or an emperor would do for someone with that level of skill.
I mean,
a High Lord's heir.
You do have a valid point.
There's more. There's so much more.
Right.
You're wasted at the night court. Absolutely wasted. Motion lurked at the corner of her eye, but she didn't break her stare from Eris's and didn't halt her steps. And then Cassian comes in, obviously. Eris looked straight down his nose at Cassian. I love that. And then I have like this like kind of long form thing, which I'm just gonna kind of go through.
Okay.
I just said that I don't see the connection of how Nesta and Cassian are equals. The whole death thing doesn't seem like a connection. It seems like a foreshadow. I think that Cassian will be the one to die, blah, 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 and that Nesta will actually end up with Eris as a circle back to the dresser drawers. This way, the three sisters will hail in 3 different courts, especially how SJM went to lengths to separate their vibes and personalities, and there's no way they'll end up all in the Night Court. But if you think about it, if they all descended from this ancient Fae warrior or whatever, right? Feyre would be the High Lord of Night. Nesta would be High Lady of Night. Nesta would be High Lady of Autumn, and Elaine would be eventual High Lady of Day. They'd all be High Ladies. High Ladies. I also want to point out that autumn is the season of both death and growth, harvest and decay, which is Nesta and Eris. Nesta would be the death and decay, and Eris would be the growth and harvest, kind of like Lady Autumn and Baron. Baron would be death and decay. Lady Autumn would be growth and harvest, especially with her fertility.
Oh, yes.
And what do we usually equate autumn with? Witches. And we know Nesta is a witch because Moore proves it, because she says witches use archaic tools with their power, beyond their power or whatever, and her archaic tools are the Dread Trove, which, as we know from Breelyn, she can summon whether there's wards on them or not.
Mm-hmm.
And Devlon, Bellius, and Tamlin all called her a witch on site. Devlon, Bellius, and Tamlin. 2 Illyrians and then Tamlin.
Mm-hmm.
I also said, which brace yourself, because this one's kind of heavy. I said, I think Cassian will die, and then Nesta will find out that she's pregnant. I think Eris would take in the child, not only because Cassian ended up accepting him, but because Eris saw how Baron treated Lucien and would never want to treat any child like that. I think this is also why Cassian is the one to tell Eris that he sees him and notices that he's not a bad male.
Oh my god. I'm going to do something. I think about these theories like they just like all day long. And I'm going to be devastated if it's true, because I will say everything you've pointed out, I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Like the echoes of her, like the flame and the flame, the cold and the hot, the death and the harvest. Eris has to have his mom's baby making skills. Like, I'm just gonna say it. Him and Lucien.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
such a fertile people over in the Autumn Court. They're like the Weasleys, basically. Like a ton of redheads just everywhere.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like only if she ends up with Eris are all 3 of them going to be High Ladies. Which
what makes
would
you
go
sure that that's what's supposed to happen? Why?
Because everyone's argument for Azriel not getting a book is that SJM said that it was the sisters series or whatever, and that she would focus on the females, the sisters' point of views.
But we already have one sister, and we have Elaine, so Elaine's gonna get a book. There's one other book. It would be Azriel's book, and then a novella, right?
Yeah, they're like, no, it's not Azriel's book. It's not gonna be Azriel's book. They're gonna pick another female character, and I'm like, who? Like, Amryn is not getting a whole book. She'll probably be in Twilight of the Gods, honestly.
I honestly think Amryn will be too, but I can
Imagine if we don't get a fucking Azriel book and we get a pre-ACOTAR fucking Amarantha book.
But I'd kind of be here for that.
What? I would rather an Azriel book. I'm sorry, I don't care.
Well, here's
Amarantha. Like, she's dead. I don't care.
No, but we have to be getting an Azriel book, right? Because she said that, like, his wingspan, didn't she make a big deal about the wingspan and like
and how he's kinky?
Yeah, and like how he's like, why would you
And
say that?
I'm so excited to write Azriel's journey. Like I say this and everyone's like, now. And I'm like, well, you're wrong. I'm right.
They have to be
I
wrong.
swear.
They have to be wrong. And also, like, we don't know for a fact that like SJM is going to be done with Akatar, right? Like, she's contracted for 2 books in a novella. That
Yeah,
doesn't
she
mean that,
said,
like,
she's like, it was supposed to be 3 books, and now who knows? It could be ongoing forever. And I'm like,
yeah,
do every
I
single
hope it
chapter.
is, because like, let's be real. There's so many people's stories that like she's not even done. Like, she's not done with Lucian, obviously. Like, she more and Emery, right? Like, that's going to
Don't.
be a big deal. Gwen, depending on like what plays out with her. I mean, I think Amryn could potentially be interesting if she's truly the lost Asteri. I would like to
Yeah.
read about that.
Moore lays one fucking finger on Emery, and I will burn that fucking book. I'm not even kidding.
I love Emery. I
I
love
love
her.
Emery. That's why I'm like, if Moore fucking touches her, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah, like
She does
but
not
also
deserve her. She fucking threatened her best friend's life. Like, no, like Emery's a better friend. Like, she's not gonna date someone that fucking threatened her friend. No, thank you.
well, if she puts them together, I would want Emery to like give Moore a really hard time, because she did more deserves that, you know?
She's just gonna ignore it like she does everything else.
Of
And let me
course.
just get my bottle of wine. Shut the fuck up and go away.
I will say too, I'll be very disappointed if the series ends and we don't end with Tamlin. Like
I
a
know.
Tamlin POV.
I know.
And I'm
If he doesn't
starting to
get a book,
get
I'm gonna be mad.
I'm getting concerned that he's not gonna get a book. And I'm getting concerned that Crescent City 3 is not gonna have Tamlin like I originally thought. I'm starting to worry a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But and also, like, okay, like, when is Eris's book gonna be? Like, when are we gonna see him?
we know it's gonna be in Moore's novella, and it just bothers me because like there's no way you can write all about her and all about him in a novella. Like
So
it should be a full book.
unless it's gonna be Elaine's book and then Moore's book, and then an Azriel novella, which I think we'd really get cheated out of, because I want to read about Azriel. So
I want Azriel and Gwyn to have their own book and Lucian and Elaine to have their own book, which is what I think is going to happen. And then Moore and Eris would have the novella.
yeah.
But again, like she said, she doesn't know how much she's contracted to. So maybe, I don't know, maybe she'll hold off on Moore and Eris, which would be kind of sad. But I don't know. I'm kind of delusional. So I want the novella to be Tamlin's, even though I know it's Moore's.
Oh, I want it to be Tamlin's. Why? But why are you so confident that's Moore's though?
Because if you look on Goodreads, it is 3.2 and Akafas is 3.1. So it's a novella stemming from events that happened in Akawar. Or after Akawar. So if it's 3.2 and it's after Akafas, and we ended with Moore feeling that creepy thing going to Valahan and the whole Valahan plotline that we have know nothing about.
Right.
And then in Akasif, well, she was like, oh, Clotho's helping me with Valahan research or whatever. We have no idea what that's about.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm like, it's Moore's.
It's
Moore's because it's after Akafas, and then we're gonna get her journey to Valahan, what happened there, probably more history with Eris, and then when you read Silver Flames again, which this novella would have been before Silver Flames, then when she says like, "Oh, I'm going to talk to Clotho about the research," we will probably know what she means by then.
That sucks.
I just think it's kind of weird that like you waited to do a novella that's like in between books. Like I know she's done it before, like with Assassin's Blade, how it didn't come out till later and it's really the prequel. But yeah.
That's fortunate, actually. I just want Tamlin's. I want like the Reese Lauren Tamlin.
I want that whole fucking thing. I want that to be settled. I want him to slowly rebuild his court with Lucian, because we know at this point they're at least on speaking terms.
Yeah.
By the end of Akasif, or end of Akaphas.
Yeah, they're a little bit.
They're good now. They're like, men, we're good.
Yeah.
We had our brawl and now we good. But
well, also, like, I'm kind of sad we didn't get that. Like, she didn't write that for us, that scene, so we could read it. Are you serious?
That's why I'm like, is there gonna be at some point a rundown of events from Tamlin's point of view? Even if it has to be like a novella, like something.
She has to, right? Because you can't leave Tamlin where he's at. He's
Reese says that. Lucian says that. Because Lucian, I just read that. Lucian actually told Feyre, after they had like their big fight or whatever, and he was like, "You're gonna need Tamlin as an ally," and she's like, "My business with him is done." He's like, "But your mate's isn't." Like, they're High Lords. He's going to need Tamlin as an ally in the future, and it would do you good to remember that. That's what he says.
love that. I love that he called her out on that. What did she say back to that again?
Nothing really. He just like left after that, I think. But
But
then Reese says something, I think in Akasif, where he's like, tries to take the credit for everything Lucian says, obviously. And he's like, well, we're gonna need Tamlin as an ally. Like, we need Spring up and running. We need to, or it was Azriel, right? Where he goes, we need to restore Tamlin. Yeah. Restore him? Like, you guys fucking ruined him. Now you need to restore him because, oh shit, the Spring Court isn't functioning without a wall.
Yeah.
Now you're in deep shit. When you should have been thinking about this before Feyre did what she did.
You know,
and Reese let her.
Yeah, that's my thing, is like, I'm really disappointed in Reese because he's 500 years old and you have this like teeny bopper 19-year-old girl who comes in, and just because you're thinking with your private parts, like, he didn't have the foresight to be like, oh shit,
like, maybe we're gonna need his armies, and he's gonna need to be an ally, and like just all of that too. Just the whole conversation when they were talking about the High Lords meeting, and oh shit, like, they might not be our allies, and they might not be our allies, and they might not be our allies. And that's why I think Reese is sus, because all of a sudden all of them are just cool with you.
It's bizarre. It's honestly like,
bizarre.
I don't know.
Back to Eris.
Anyways, back to Eris. Well, I don't know. I mean,
but do you think he's gonna die?
I'm
out of everybody, because I know 100% there's gonna be a major death. Who do you think it's gonna be?
I'm an Eris. Like, I think she's gonna kill him off. I do. And I say that just because he's there's a lot of focus on him. She's building him up right now. You see that right.
Do you think he's gonna die in Hofas or Akatar 6, or do you think he's gonna die in their novella?
Oh man, be brutal in the novella. A novella death, that'd be so fucked up.
Or you know what she could do? Since the novella is after Akawar, she could kill him off in one of the books coming out. And then we get all of his history in the novella, which was pre.
Stop it. That actually like opened
like
up
Sam.
Stop. No, she can't kill him off because he's in Silver Flames. She can't kill him off post Akawar.
No, I'm saying no. I'm saying she could kill him in Hofas or Akatar 6, and then the novella would have been about their history and like how he actually is and what he did for like Mor and Lucian and everyone.
You know what? I'm like really trying to not get attached to Eris.
Love him.
I know. And like, I love him too, but I'm trying to emotionally detach myself because I'm like, it's gotta be Eris. I know it. I just have a gut feeling because like
I would.
I mean, if she truly
I'm team Eris. I'm always team Eris.
So who's your big death? Who do you
I
think
would
she's
rather Cassian. Okay, but actually someone told me that they thought it was going to be Azriel, but I really don't see any possibility of that one happening.
Yeah. hearing a lot of Azriel too lately, but I
That doesn't
don't
make sense to me at all.
why. Yeah, like why does it
Like
not
his
make sense?
arc isn't even finished. SJM is excited to write him. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, technically you could say Tamlin is on the list. Eris is on the list. Cassian is on the list. Maybe Amryn. Maybe, but she already died once. But now that they claim that she's not powerful, like, I don't know, she's like, I hate peeing, and yeah. And, like, she's, like, basic and not powerful, but then Feyre goes to visit her at her apartment, and, like, she still has some of the power in her eyes, which mirrors Nesta.
Yeah.
Having some of her power. So that whole thing is going to be weird. I do think that Amryn is actually going to have, like, a big part in Hofas.
I think she's gonna have a huge part. I think like we've been buying time for Amryn to have her part.
I just think it kind of sucks that I don't know. It's like she's not what she was anyway, so it's not really gonna matter. It's gonna cheapen it kind of.
Does it feels
and we know that Nesta's gonna play a big part. As I said, I think Nesta and Bryce are connected by the mother or the Luna, whatever you want to call it. I also think that, see, I go back and forth between believing Hofas is going to be mostly like dealing with Midgard and the Princes of Hell and stuff, and between believing that Koshi has something to do with it and that it's all going to be one book. But I don't know. Like, Koshi could just be like ACOTAR's 6th villain. But the only thing that tells me no, the only thing that makes me think that he's going to be in Hofas is the 15,000 years, 15,000 years, 15,000 years. All the time in Crescent City. The princes were doing this 15,000 years ago. Everyone came through the rift 15,000 years ago. The only person who's 15,000 years old in ACOTAR is Koshi. He's 15,000 years old. He's deathless.
Yeah. What does he know?
And he's the only one left of the gods that they created in Prythian, because the Weaver was one and the Bone Carver was one and they're dead.
Yeah.
And Koshi was their older, more powerful brother.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but also if Koshi is the astronomer, then he would be present in House of Flame and Shadow too. And Ethan,
because again, he can literally pose as anyone, according to the myth.
And Ethan did steal a certain black box. So
what?
I mean, maybe I should have spoiled that for you. I'm sorry, it's like late.
Oh my god, he has Elaine's black box. Wait a minute. Ethan and Elaine.
I personally love Ethan.
I love Ethan too.
I love Ethan.
No, I want Elaine with Lucian, but I don't know. Maybe Ethan would die, which is cool because Connor already died.
If she kills off Ethan, we're so fucking pissed.
Because if you think about it, she kind of treats him like he's just there. Like, he reminds me, I know I haven't read like all of Assassin's Blade or whatever, but he reminds me of Sam.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does.
But then there's the whole thing with the fucking Danica's sister thing. Yeah, whatever.
Alpha.
I don't know. Like, is that his mate? Everyone says that that's his mate. I don't know.
You know, she does have a tendency to like kill off the
sides. The sides.
It's a specific side. It's the side character that's like decent and always does
And
like the good.
lovable.
Yeah.
Eris. Fucking hell.
Yeah. Like
Because, well, see, it's funny because it's always the side character, which you said, like specific, but specifically the one that has done bad things in the past, redeemed themselves, and is proven to be a good person. Because remember, everyone was like, you like fucked over Bryce for 2 years, you wouldn't talk to her, and you worked for Emily and all this stuff. And like they were on his ass about that. And like by the end of the book, they're like all family.
yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
gonna happen with Eris too, where they're gonna be like, oh, like more like what the fuck? Like what the fuck?
Or
Like
lied to us fucking long and
also, can I just say if Baron doesn't fucking die, I'm gonna be so mad. I want to see Eris as High Lord.
you know we're not gonna get much of that. You know it's gonna be
Yum. I need High Lord Eris in my life.
okay.
I will kill Cassian 10 times over to see High Lord Eris. Shoot him with those ash arrows, Eris. Go ahead. How dare you?
Did you see that people are now starting to say that it could possibly be Rhysand and Feyre again? Because technically their arc is kind of over. They have their kid. They're happy.
Their death pact.
Their death pact.
I would jump for joy. I would be the happiest woman alive if they killed off Feyzan. Just to say I told you so to people. Just to relish in the chaos of the fandom. I will be the god of chaos. I will be Eris.
You'll be the god of strife and give.
That's actually really funny because when the whole fucking like what god goddess of you test was going around, I did get Eris.
Did you really?
I did.
Wait, I didn't take that test. Can you send it to me? Is it still
I'll have to find it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Okay, so here's my thing too. It's like SJM is in a bad spot right now, real quick, right? Because like depending on who she kills off, she's gonna piss off certain factions of her fandom.
That's the thing.
Like,
can you imagine if someone is killed off in each bonus chapter and everyone fights over who died?
So fucking just so crazy. It's the craziest book series like I have honestly ever read in my entire life because there's so much shit in it. Like
if I was an author like her, I would do that. I would do that just for the chaos. I'm Eris, okay? I would do that just for the chaos.
Did you like it's like who are you gonna piss off the most? Like I honestly it might be Tamlin because she's like I fucking hate him and fuck Tamlin fans, right? Like
but again, she would need a fucking backup plan for that. And right now she doesn't. There's a lot of people that even love Feyzan that are like, yeah, Feyre was not qualified to be High Lady.
Really?
She does. Yeah, there are people that are like, yeah, she wasn't really qualified. Like she should have trained and learned the people, and then he should have like initiated her or whatever. So that's why I'm like, I don't think if she goes right to Elaine as High Lady of a Spring, like that's not believable.
Yeah. I don't know. I just know
like if Tamlin died, like someone has to immediately take over, and it can't be Elaine. Come on,
it's gonna be Elaine.
She can't even handle like Lucian being in the same room. She's gonna handle a whole court people she doesn't know, and she doesn't even like Faye still.
That's true. How crazy would it be if she shocks us all and makes Elaine? What if Elaine and Koshi make a agreement that he can make her back into a human, so she could try to go back and be with Grayson, and that's why she's willing to like work with him.
I do think he has some sort of sway over her.
Yeah, but either way,
definitely.
Either way, Eris is a really great character, and I'm gonna be really if she kills him.
I love him.
I love him too. I don't think it would be immediately. I think it would be like a book or two from now because like we have to meet the Autumn Court first, right?
Yeah, depending on if like Einar is from the autumn cart. I still think Bryce is their cousin.
Oh, totally. Like,
She
I believe that.
looks just like Lucian.
Yeah. They both have the same skin.
Just like Lucian.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. Ember is from the day court.
it has to be.
Did you see the new art of them on the Crescent
The-
City
The
thing?
dark hair, yeah, and Randall.
Fucking female Helion.
I love it.
100%. Because, okay, Lady Autumn with the wine red hair, right? And Helion with the golden skin. And then you got Lucian, the golden skin and the wine red hair. Then you have Einar with the wine red hair. And Ember with the with the golden skin. Bryce, like,
But also it would add up because remember Helion's like someone like an ancestor in my past used one of the trove items.
yes.
So like that would make sense because one of like Ember could be from that line that used the trove to like get to Midgard or to do something, right?
Exactly. And then they tossed it in the bog of Orid.
Yeah.
He was like, fuck that thing.
Still don't know what happened at the Bog of Orid too, because remember it used to be like a very sacred place and like
yeah, and then didn't they say like witches used to live there and they drank the blood of innocence or whatever, which Amarin.
Yeah.
But then she's like, ew, human blood.
Yeah, she doesn't like it.
It's watery and it tastes like their last meal.
Yeah.
I prefer lamb or goat.
Oh my gosh.
Which again, lamb from the Bible thing where they had to put blood over their doors because they were afraid of her.
Interesting connection there. I never would have thought about that. But either way, I'm like so glad that we had this conversation tonight because I love Eris so much and like
even though we swayed a lot, it's fine. It all stems from Eris.
It does. It all stems from Eris and like, you know.
And Lucian and Helion and Lady Autumn and Einar and Bryce and Ember and
they're all connected. They're all connected. So we had to talk about them. Let's be real.
Yeah. But
yeah,
I feel like it's just like it's like it's the two factions. Like there's the Autumn Court faction between ACOTAR and Midgard, and then there's the Avalon Night Court faction of whatever that are related.
Yeah.
But with, like I said, like a little bit of day court, a little bit of spring court. Someone said the other day to me, sorry, I know you're gonna go. Someone said the other day to me that Rune had used spring court powers twice.
All that. And when was that?
I don't know. I'm only on chapter 20 of.
Okay. We need to read more because I saw that too.
Oh, Sab. I was like,
unless it's like a wind's power.
It could be.
Can you ask them like what spring powers?
If I can find it. If I can find it, I'll look.
I think I saw that on the Crescent City Facebook page. I think I liked it.
Do you think that, I know you think that this thing with the Asteri is his ordeal. Do you think it's gonna unlock his shape-shifting powers?
I would fucking freak out if it did.
Because now that we know that Bryce can basically shapeshift, she can do everything. She's like Feyre, basically. Yeah. Like which is why I thought the cover of Hofas was her beast form with all of the different Fae inside of her.
You know, that's actually my favorite. One of my favorite theories that you've said is that is Bryce's. Like, I think about that all the time. I do. I love it.
Well, and like she literally got a drop of everything from everyone, like during her drop or whatever it was. Her drop, and it said like from Shifter, from Myr, from this, from that, from witches. And so she has like the witch nails, and then the snakes, and the autumn leaves, and then the fey ears, and the glowy eyes, and it's like.
And I want to stay in this body with him.
In this body with him?
super sus.
Her and Hunter both sus,
They're
honestly.
both, they really are.
I want them to end up together, though.
I do love them together. Like, they're the healthiest couple that we've seen so far.
And
They're just
the pointy ear that you sent me.
right. Did you catch? Was that my eyes that was doing that? I was like,
No, I saw it when you sent it to me. I got dust covers for mine, so I didn't really study the fronts. But I was like, and the orange eyes? Why are they orange?
I don't know. I don't remember anyone having orange eyes except for like Azrael and Cassian, right?
We're gonna have to pay real close attention to Thur.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Like lightning, like what is orange?
I don't remember orange anywhere.
Other
And
than Tharian, like in his orange tiger stripes.
yeah,
But
there's nothing.
do you think that they not only altered his memory, but do you think that they altered his body as well?
I would not put it past the Asteri that they did something in their dungeon to him. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
experiments.
Experiments on him to yeah. Yeah.
What if Einar's working with them? All his experiments. What if he is the one feeding them this information?
I could see Einar being a double agent. I don't know if I could see.
I don't know. He's pretty awful to Rune.
He's awful to Rune, but if you like, I feel like if you kind of read between lines, I feel like
he's nicer. He's nicer to Bryce because he loved Ember. He's awful to Rune because I think he has kind of like Baron with Lucian. He has an inkling that like he's not his son.
Yeah.
So I think that but when Rune finds himself in those dungeons, I don't think Einar's gonna give a shit. I don't think he's gonna care. I think he would probably even give them some of the experiments to do on him. Because remember, he's the one that burned him to experiment on him. So does he know something? Like, other than fire, does he like know maybe that he could be a shapeshifter? Was that the anger he was trying to pull out of him and not the fire power? Because Tamlin, obviously, when he's like angry or depressed, he gets his claws. He begins to turn. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Could that be the spring core power? Like, I'm so curious now.
We have to read more. I think you and I haven't read it yet. I don't know.
We have to finish in 5 days.
Yeah, we do. I know we do. Seriously, like, we have a lot to do.
We got cut off, but happy Eris week. There are some more points we thought of after that will be in upcoming episodes. We hope you enjoyed the episode.